Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are out there in the world. So, I'm just bringing you some updates on the Huszti sisters. There's been a few developments, so I figured I would just post them in a live video rather than in smaller videos so that we can catch up with what's been going on. Hey, Donna, I hope you are well. So, I'm going to go through everything we know. Then I'm going to play the press conference. I'll probably have to pause it for copyright purposes on here, so that we can obviously then we can listen and can kind of speak in between some of those things, and then I'll go through some of the things that have been published. But I also want to obviously go over that map again. I'm okay, thank you. I've had a bit of a semi lazy day, and I've just been getting stuff ready for editing for the podcast that I'm working on, podcast number 6, ready to go in the line, ready for when I start publishing them out. I just need to make sure I've got a good bank of them so that I can have time to get the next ones out, knowing that there's always a couple ahead. So today, everything that we know so far, and some of this probably is going to be covered in that press conference, but so we know that the police are still looking for the sisters, and it's now entering in the second week since they went missing, and they're saying it is from their home in Aberdeen. They are both 32, and they are part of a set of triplets. And what we now know that we didn't know before is that they had been actually reported missing by their landlord. And this was because they'd told the landlord that they had the intention to leave the tenancy that they shared. Now, I did question this, have questioned this, like, why would the landlord go round there, go into the property and that kind of thing? Because it's more information is showing that obviously I think the landlord is a landlady, that they'd gone into the property, and because of everything they saw left laying around, and with the tenancy being handed in, they actually called them in as missing because they had concerns. Now, the police continue to keep an open mind about where they have gone, but they are considering that the pair had entered into the water. Now, we know that the police air support has been out there. They've had the dogs, they've had the divers, and they continue to focus on the river. So, again, for those of you, if you haven't seen this CCTV picture, it's one of the CCTV pictures released by the police that says this is one of the last things that they have at the moment. Now, they may have more that we've not seen, and they may drop some information out that, with further images further up the road as they're walking. But what they're saying is definitely it's the water theory. That they don't believe that there's any criminality involved in the girl's disappearance, and it's saying here that there were no known mental health concerns, which might have explained it. So I don't know if they've gone through medical to get that information, but the family certainly weren't reporting any concerns. Now, their families have been speaking out and obviously asking about people not to speculate and that kind of thing. I haven't seen still really any information other than one that I'm going to show you today of people kind of speculating on what's gone on. The brother is from Budapest, and they apparently he says that he didn't know that they were going to end their tenancy agreement, and he'd had a conversation with them prior to their disappearance and said that they sounded absolutely fine, and that it's strange that they didn't say anything about leaving the tenancy. So for them, that's a shock because, that wasn't expected. And then they'd spoken to their sister, who said they seemed happy and bubbly. And then it says here that the mother had spoken to them as well. Now, obviously, we can't say what's going on in people's minds. No one knows, and people can, very, very well mask any issues that they are going through, if they are going through anything. It is all so strange. But yeah, we don't always tell families everything because, they might have just happened by chance on a property that they saw that they liked, and they hadn't thought about moving until they thought about moving, and it wasn't anything to shout about until perhaps maybe they were ready to shout about it. I mean, just don't know, do you? That's the thing. So I'm going to play the police press conference. I said this on my live the other night. I think he did a good job. He speaks very well for a Scottishman from Aberdeen. And you can understand everything he's saying. He's very clear. He speaks at a nice, even pace. Okay. So I'm probably going to have to pause this from time to time.
2 in the morning last Tuesday, the 7th of January 2025. They were last seen in and around this area of Aberdeen, crossing the Victoria Bridge towards Torry, where they entered a footpath adjacent to the River Dee, and inquiries to date have failed to trace them since that time. Concerns were raised regarding their whereabouts, and a significant police inquiry has been ongoing since that time, including extensive searches in and around the area of the river here, but also further afield as we try and understand what has happened to the sisters. We're in contact regularly with their family home in Hungary, who are extremely concerned about their whereabouts, extremely supportive of police inquiries, and extremely keen to find out exactly what's happened. The family, along with the police, are really keen to hear from anyone in the Aberdeen area who may have been in and around the area of the Victoria Bridge or Torry during the early hours of Tuesday, the 7th of January. To that end, we had officers deployed in the early hours of this morning, exactly 1 week since their disappearance, who were speaking with members of the public in an attempt to gain further information with regards to what may have happened to them.
Now, what I would say there is, as I say with everything, if you were in that area and you happen to have seen this press conference and you're thinking, well, I don't really think there's anything that I may or may not have seen, there's nothing, and then something small comes across your mind and you're like, well, that's probably not going to make the blindest bit of difference. What you have to know is that any small piece of information, it could even just be that you've seen a car that looked a bit dodgy, or you might have walked past them, but they seemed okay. But these are the sorts of bits of information where sometimes people don't go in with them and think, well, it ain't going to really change anything. But it could be a piece of the jigsaw. I always say that I need merch with. It could be the missing piece that helps find anybody in any case, or solves any murder, crime, any crime. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean. I know what I mean.
Significant police inquiry remains ongoing, as will be evidenced by activity on the river today and in the days to come. We're also continuing a number of land-based inquiries in and around the Torry area, whilst keeping an open mind in terms of what exactly has happened. Appreciate the support of the media in sharing our appeals for information and for support from the public, and we really appreciate the input that we've had from the public so far. But again, I would reiterate that appeal. If you were in and around this area during the early hours of Tuesday the 7th of January, whether you think you have relevant information or not, please contact us, have a conversation with us, and help us to piece together exactly what has happened. I'm happy to take questions from the attending media.
There's no harm in even just calling them, and if they say, no, that's not really going to help, it's better to contact them and have that conversation just in case, because you just never know. You just never know.
Suspicious. Indeed, sinister. What we have no further news that you can give us here today. You rule out that they've come to harm.
What I could say that all our inquiries to date don't provide any evidence that there's been criminality involved in the disappearance of the sisters. There's obviously significant concern when people are unaccounted for such a significant period of time. But extensive police inquiries to date have not identified any suspicious circumstances.
Do you have any idea why they came to this area? An explanation at all?
We don't. We are carrying out significant inquiries to try and understand what the lifestyle and the movements of the sisters was. But from information from friends and family, them being out in Aberdeen at that time in the morning is very unusual. We've no reason to think that they were socialising in the city prior to attending in this area. It looks very much as if they've attended here from their home address or the area of their home address. But we're working hard to try and...
And again, like I said, you know, with family and friends, you can never tell. Like, if her family are in Hungary, they're not actually going to know if they do go out. They're saying it's not normal for them to be out at that time in the morning. But we do have to bear in mind that they might actually do that, and they might not have actually told their family. Same as anyone that they've made friends with here. They may not have gone out with them, but they may have been people that like to go for, you know, late night walks because they couldn't sleep, or, you know, one of them had restless legs. You know what it's like if you've got restless legs, and it's like, right, come on, because the other one would always be with the other one. They were very supportive. They were always together. So we can't, I mean, I know they're saying that, you know, it's not something that they would normally do, but we can't 100% say we could rule that out, or that they should rule that out. So if you think that you're in that area and you think you've seen them out of the vicinity that the police have given, then contact the police and let them know, because you just never know.
Understand that.
Who was it that raised the alarm?
The person raising the alarm was the person from whom they rent their flat. And that person had been in contact with the sisters in the days prior, in the context of the relationship of landlord and tenant. And the alarm was raised by that person, and the police inquiry stood up immediately thereafter.
What did you glean from the last week?
An enormous amount of information in terms of what goes on in this area at that time in the morning. It's an area of heavy industry, and I think we've got good evidence to suggest that there were people walking about, there were people driving about, who will hopefully be able to help us build some context around about what has happened here. What we've also gleaned is information from an extensive CCTV trawl, from which we've been able to piece together the sisters' movements through Aberdeen and ultimately to this area of Aberdeen where that contact for the moment has dropped off. But inquiries continue to try and understand what's happened thereafter.
Do you have a working hypothesis at the moment about what might have happened to them, or are you pursuing lots of things?
Yeah, we have a number of hypotheses, and we're remaining really open-minded in terms of what may have happened. But one of the main theories is that for some reason the sisters have entered the water here, and that's why a lot of the search activity that you'll have seen over the last few days has been focused in and around the river. We don't know that.
And again, we know that has been the case. They have been searching the river. The river has been very icy. It's not good conditions for any human being to be in there, even the ones that wear the the wetsuits with all the proper gear that protects them from, the severe cold. And you saw that CCTV picture. Those sisters are not dressed for the water at all. Oddly, one has a bag and the other one doesn't have a bag. And obviously we learn a bit more through these questions. And I said the other day, I'm never really sure whether or not, because the media will have a mini briefing before the press conference, whether or not at that point they put their questions together, or whether or not, who knows, that they get given a set of questions that they can, ask the police, because these are the ones that we will answer. And then whoever asks it first asks it, and then the next question on the list goes to whoever then asks questions. I don't know. But again, that the conditions of the water is not good for the searching and for the divers. And it would never have been okay for those sisters wearing what they were wearing, just normal clothes. Iced over cold water is absolutely freezing up in Aberdeen. I mean, we think we're cold, but up north it's really cold.
Because clearly there's a lot of names.
We know that at about 2:15 in the morning last Tuesday,
Bear with me a minute, ladies. How far did I get?
Some context around about what has happened here. What we've also gleaned is information from an extensive CCTV trawl, from which we've been able to piece together the sisters' movements through Aberdeen and ultimately to this area of Aberdeen where that.
Have you heard that bit? I can't remember what we've heard. I just like, oh, I hit the wrong button and now we've lost the space and now I've got to try and freaking find it again. Let me come back a fraction. I don't know if we've seen this bit or not. I kind of feel like we probably have, but I don't know. We'll go from
an extensive CCTV trawl from which we've been able to piece together the sisters' movements through Aberdeen and ultimately to this area of Aberdeen where that contact for the moment has dropped off. But inquiries continue to try and understand what's happened thereafter.
Do you have a working hypothesis at the moment about what might have happened to them, or are you pursuing lots of them?
Yeah, we have a number of hypotheses and we're remaining really open-minded in terms of what may have happened. But one of the main theories is that for some reason the sisters have entered the water here, and that's why a lot of the search activity that you'll have seen over the last few days has been focused in and around the river.
I obviously weren't too far off. That's not too bad.
We don't know that for certain. What we do know is that at the moment CCTV provides that they entered a footpath adjacent to the River Dee, and we have no trace of them leaving that footpath yet. But inquiries continue to see if we can extend that timeline further.
Did they appear to have anything with them? Say there were someone crazy like going for a late night swim. Did they appear to have anything with them that would back that up?
We've no reason to think from the way they were dressed or the way they were acting that they intended to enter the river.
I was going to say they didn't look like they were going for a late night swim. Absolutely not. No way, Jose, did they look like they were dressed ready for a swim. I'm not sure how he got that from that picture, but they definitely were not looking like they were ready for a swim in those temps. Absolutely.
In the means that you've described there, the CCTV image, I think, has been shared of the most recent sighting of the sisters. They are dressed appropriately for the weather, but there is nothing else in their dress that causes us concern.
So is there a chance this has been some tragic accident?
As I say, we remain open-minded in terms of what exactly has happened, but we're not ruling anything out.
Has there been any interaction with the news or
At the moment, there's no reason to think that. It is a line of inquiry, but we've carried out extensive inquiries in terms of the state of mind that the sisters may have been in, and the sort of lifestyle, movements, contact with friends, contact with family, and everything that we have gleaned so far suggests that they were happily living their life in Aberdeen, working, socialising with friends, and keeping in touch with family in an entirely normal manner.
How long did they been missing before the alarm was raised by the landlord?
It was only a matter of hours. We think that we know that the last sighting of them was in the early hours of the morning, and by lunchtime that day we'd received a call from the landlord.
Just to be clear, does the landlord live with them? Or it seems unusual that a landlord would raise suspicions or questions about locations of tenants hours after they disappeared at 2 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't make sense, does it?
No, what we do know is that in the days preceding, the sisters had indicated to the landlord that they intended to leave their tenancy, and the landlords carried out inquiries at the address, which has led them to be concerned about the whereabouts of the sisters, specifically due to some materials, personal possessions, etc., that had been left within the address.
Now, what we didn't get to hear at this point was that the sisters had apparently told the landlord, that they were all, like, leaving with immediate effect kind of thing. So in this situation, you get a message from your tenant saying, hey, we're going to be leaving with immediate effect. Of course, the landlord is probably going to be concerned. Now, I did find it odd that they went in when they didn't answer. but obviously perhaps he knew the tenants quite well and just thought something wasn't right. And thank God he did, or she did. Thank God she went in there and looked and saw something wasn't right and reported them, because obviously they could have been missing for a bit longer before a report was actually put in. So I take my hats off to the landlord for that. But at first I thought, oh, that's a bit iffy, isn't it? Like you've kind of gone somewhere. Why have you gone round? Like everyone, if you rent, in the past you've handed your tenancy in and you move on, you go somewhere else. The landlord wouldn't come knocking on the door to see what was going on. But it made sense when we heard, of course, that this was like with immediate effect, pretty much.
No, there's nothing specific within the property to suggest that they had either an intention to disappear or an intention to do themselves harm. What there was within the property are a number of personal possessions, which are now in the possession of the police, and those are things that we can interrogate to try and glean further information in relation to the wider circumstances, but nothing to explicitly suggest that they intended either to leave the area immediately or that they had any intent to do themselves harm.
Has the landlord been interviewed as a witness?
Yes.
Or a suspect?
No, there are no suspects. This is not a criminal inquiry. This is a missing person inquiry.
Do they live alone?
They live together in that tenancy, but there were no further tenants in the flat.
They hadn't left any personal belongings behind versus the welfare, as far as you're aware, they hadn't those on there.
There were some personal possessions in the flat, including mobile phones. We are working to interrogate the information on them. One, to understand how recent and relevant they are. You understand, in terms of that sort of retention of devices. So we're working hard to understand that. But we do believe that they had at least one mobile phone in their possession at the time in which they were around this area at the time of last sighting.
The journey that they made to get here, did they pass on busy streets like Union Street, for example? Are you able to establish what route they took?
Yeah, we know that from their home address, they've taken essentially a direct walking route through the city centre to ultimately end up here at about 12 minutes past 2 in the morning. They haven't stopped at any premises. We don't think they're in the company of anyone else. They seem to have left their home address or the vicinity of their home address and walked in a direct line to this location here.
So did one of them leave behind a mobile phone then? Just one of them, one of them had one with them?
No, I can't say that with any degree of certainty. What I can say with a degree of certainty is that they were in possession of a mobile phone and that there were mobile phones in the flat. What we'll have to work to try and understand is whether the phones in the flat are recent and relevant. And given security around about mobile telephones and the fact that people tend not to dispose of old devices, there's work to do to understand the provenance of those devices.
Is it your working assumption that they are now dead?
Our working assumption is that we are very concerned about their whereabouts, and we are now a week on. We're not ruling anything in or out, we're remaining open-minded, but one of our strong theories has to be that for some reason they've entered the water, and that's why so much of our search activity focuses in that area. But that hasn't meant that we have taken our focus away from different elements of the inquiry, so we're still carrying out a wider CCTV trawl to understand if they may have escaped the area by some means that we are so far unaware of. But at the moment, our best hypothesis is that they've gone into the footpath at the side of the river here, and that they haven't emerged, and we're trying to understand exactly what has happened once they've entered that area.
With the CCTV you've examined, did they appear to be in a normal state of mind, or did they look stressed, or is there anything out of the ordinary?
No, from the CCTV, they seem to walk a direct line here. There's nothing in either their demeanour or their interaction with each other or their interaction with anyone else that suggests that they were in distress or to give us any sort of concern for their health.
And that's what makes this all the more puzzling, isn't it? That there just doesn't seem to be any information that can help make this make sense, because it doesn't actually make sense, right? Other than the fact that they've ended up in the water, the fact that they've handed in their tenancy and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, if you just take out a lot of the other noise and perhaps just take on board the issues with the landlord and landlady, or I think it's a landlady. I keep saying landlord because that's what he started off with, and then he referred to landlady. But it's that kind of situation where, so they've immediately even when you do this, they've said that they're going to leave the property with almost immediate effect, which would be out of character for them. The fact that they've gone out, we've been told, is out of character for them. They seemed happy, so for them to, I suppose, obviously make the decision to unalive would be out of character based on everything that the police have been told from family, that they were fine, and actually they may not have been fine. So you can't just rule that out just because, you know, the family didn't know that there was issues, and if one was struggling, then the other one would have been struggling because they were very close together. But if you just go on the basis that they'd taken some irrational moves for them, so attempting to leave their property, giving in notice, meaning they didn't intend to be there, and if they didn't have anywhere else to go, and then obviously they've took themselves off at a period of time of night where they wouldn't normally, to take themselves to obviously hurt themselves, then you can kind of see that, yes, that perhaps maybe what they did was intentional. But then on the other hand, I said this on my last video, why walk past all of the river when there is river there that would be deep and would unalive you immediately because it's cold and it's deep? It would be quick. And then if you didn't want to be found afterwards, chances are you're then going to get washed out into the North Sea, and they would never be found. So it seems odd to me that they've taken that journey, but it might have been, you know, you've got to think, well, if that's what they were doing, were they having conversations and just talking to each other before they did what they did? But then they could have done that stood at a wall. You know, not many people, you know, 2 people stood there chatting by a wall wouldn't get a lot of attention. And it would just make the job easy because it would have been seen on CCTV within that area because it's a busy area. But then you sort of think, right, well, okay, so maybe like because they seemed okay, if we're going on that theory, going out was unusual. Well, perhaps maybe they just needed to get out for a bit of fresh air. One of them wasn't feeling great, and the other accompanied, and they went for a walk, and then there was an accident, and that's how they've ended up into the river, if that's where they have. Now, like you said, there's nothing been found to suggest that they left the area. Now, I am aware that there's another exit that they could have exited from, but they haven't yet had any information on CCTV to show that. So what we have to bear in mind is that it takes a lot of man hours to work the way through the CCTV. So, you know, in the best outcome, that they might have seen something later on. They might say, oh, look, we've seen them past that time, or they've been seen past that time. But in the worst case scenario, they didn't leave the area. And I think personally, they've probably ended up in the river. I think a lot of us think that they've ended up in that river. It's just, you know, was it accidental? Was it intentional? And obviously they've said they don't believe there's anyone else involved.
That time.
Please mention that CCTV call. Are there any new pictures you've been able to glean from that from when they first went missing? For example, from the businesses or from the garages?
There's nothing that extends beyond the point last seen, which is essentially here where we're standing at just the back of 2 a.m. on Tuesday the 7th. But what we have obtained is a degree of further footage of their movements through the city centre up to this point. And we're interrogating that as part of the wider inquiry. But the trawl does extend beyond the point last seen, and you know, our intention is to rule in or rule out the fact that they've left this area by means as yet unknown to us.
Is there any activity on their banks?
It's something that we're looking at pretty constantly. There is nothing to indicate financial transactions since the time that they were last seen.
The searches of the water that you've carried out so far, have they gleaned anything at all?
No, we haven't found any personal possessions. We haven't found anything to indicate that they've been within the water, but that remains one of our working theories. Sorry.
Is there anything to suggest that they've taken this route before, or they've been out that time of night previously?
That's a focus of the inquiry that's being developed at the moment. As we stand here, no. Certainly in the days immediately prior, there's nothing from interaction with friends or interaction with family that would suggest that being on foot in this area or out in Aberdeen at that time in the morning at all is normal behaviour for them. But what we are doing is extending our inquiries just to try and understand whether that was maybe something, whether they maybe had a reason to be here that we're currently unaware of.
Have you been able to get any information relating to their mobile activity, like mobile phone accounts, texts, WhatsApps?
We're working, with the appropriate specialists to try and understand what use that there's been on the phones, but there is nothing that we have found that either causes us concern in that regard or anything that brings our inquiries beyond the point last seen here.
And so have you got texts? Have you found, mobile activity in the run-up to them going missing? It's a text from 1:30, say, or 1 o'clock.
It's a line of inquiry that we'll follow. I mean, you'll understand people are busy on their mobile telephones at all times. We have a number of devices from the flat that we will interrogate to try and understand who they've been in contact with. But what we don't have, what I can say is we don't have detail of either text or telephone contact with people in the run-up to their disappearance that provides any further context or information as to what's happened.
And is there a chance that the working phones have gone into the water then?
As I say, we're not ruling anything out, but one of our theories has to be that they've entered this water in possession of any items they had with them at that time.
And that's the thing. They've got to, keep that in mind. But they are and have been doing on-land searches as well. So they are looking at all angles, but I think they do primarily think the water. But the thing is with water as well, if they have gone in there, then the outcome isn't going to be good, right? We know that. So the outcome for that is merely trying to find them and then obviously giving closure to their family and their friends rather than not at all and never finding them. And so I guess when the first place that they're going to start, diving into is the water and then doing the land search in and around the area so that they can at least try and, find them if they are in the water before anything happens. Meanwhile, continuing to search up on the land. Now, it's interesting about the mobile phones. They think that they had phones on them, or at least one phone on them, and then there was tech in the house, or the flat. That could just be that, like we've all got a ton of old devices dotted around. I think I've got a device kicking around from about 14 years ago. Can't turn the thing on, mind you, but I still had it in the drawer, and I think it is still in the drawer. I don't think I've got round to binning it yet, but we do have those. But if they're on, an Apple device or whatever, it's possible that they could perhaps get into iCloud and that kind of thing to get information on what was actually going on the phone. If there's any indication in the phones, it's just, this whole situation is just bizarre, wouldn't you? Because, when somebody usually intends to do something for the sake of their families, especially as they're part of triplets and they have a sister, if they had have intended to go in that river, they'd have left a note or something behind somewhere.
But we're not ruling out any other possibilities.
The family planning to come to Aberdeen?
Not at the moment. We're in contact with our family regularly. Their family are hugely appreciative of the police inquiries. They're hugely appreciative of the support that the inquiries had in the media. They're hugely appreciative of the support that they've had from people in Aberdeen. And they're just really, really worried about what's happened. We'll update them daily, and it may be the case that they decide to come to Aberdeen, but at the moment, no. Yeah, I think what we have is some of the CCTV coverage of this area also picks up audio. And as part of our trawl, we do have an audio feed from the area around the material time. And what it indicates is that there are people and vehicles in and around the area. It's very difficult without the context of pictures to interpret sounds from an area such as this. It's really busy just now, which paints a false picture of what it looks and feels like at the back of 2 a.m. But this is a busy area generally. There's a lot of heavy industry. There's a lot of foot traffic over the bridge in particular. So in terms of that audio feed, there are a lot of noises that we are trying to interpret, but at the moment we don't have any evidence that suggests that any of that can be attributed to the missing sisters. But it's not something that we're ruling out. It's something that we're working on constantly.
Just to return to the tenancy, had they indicated at all that they also wish to leave Aberdeen?
No, nothing further. Just that they intended to leave that flat at some point.
And what kind of timescale was that?
It was pretty open-ended, but you know, obviously explicit enough that the landlady felt like inquiry needed to be made just to further detail that.
Has there been a falling out with the landlord?
No, not that we believe.
Have you had anything from their employer as well?
And we've been in touch with employers. We've spoken to workmates. That there's nothing that's coming out of that interaction that causes us any concern. Like I said at the beginning, everything suggests that Eliza and Henrietta were well settled in Aberdeen. They've been here for a number of years. They were, in secure and happy employment. They had a social life here. They had friends here, and this is just entirely out of character, both in terms of everything we found in the police inquiry, but also in terms of what we're being told by their family and by their friends. And if I could just take the opportunity again to extend that appeal to anyone who may have information that might assist us in taking this inquiry further, please contact Police Scotland. If you are in and around this area during the early hours of Tuesday, the 7th of January, whether you think you have relevant information or not, we would like to speak to you because we're trying to build up a picture of who was in and around the area and where we might glean further evidence for further information as we try and piece together the circumstances.
What is the likelihood that we're still alive?
I don't want to speculate on likelihood. What I would say again is that we're remaining open-minded. We have a theory which involves them having entered the water as a potential, but we can't rule out the fact that the timeline actually extends beyond that point, and we just haven't established that through inquiries. But we will continue with the energy, with the resource, with the scrutiny around about the inquiry, because we've got a duty to tell Eliza and Henrietta's sisters what has happened to the best of our ability, and to kind of reassure the community of Aberdeen here that we are doing everything we can to make that happen.
Thank you.
Sorry? The majority of the searches, again, will focus on the river area. We've got air support today, so what you're likely to see is the police helicopter supporting some of the search activity out towards the mouth of the harbour there. There's also foot-based conventional inquiries ongoing with industrial units up into Torry there as we extend out that CCTV trawl and try and speak to local people to get information from them. So there will be a significant police activity in and around this area for the coming days.
Okay, thanks everyone. I think we've kind of covered a lot of ground there. So I just conscious folk will need their kind of one-on-ones and everything as well. So we'll break off into that. But thanks everyone. It's been...
So that was the press conference that they gave on the sisters. Now, again, a lot of information was gathered from that. So hopefully piecing things together, it kind of puzzles a little bit more, but it also kind of gives us a bit more information. And hopefully every now and then they will come out and they will give a press conference on what has been going on and what they've been up to and all those good things. So I will keep my eye out for further press conference because I think that they are, obviously quite important to update the public and for people sharing information, because if we don't get the information and updates, then we can't share that with anyone. So I want to just okay, so just want to go on to this article here. Just stop the screen so that you can see what I see. Just go back to comments there. There was a bunch of stuff. There was devices in the house. They didn't give a whole lot of information in there, but from the way that when the landlady went in there, it was enough for her to be concerned. And obviously with devices being in the property, and obviously we can't tell whether they're old, new or what, but because they've not kind of indicated that, but they believe that they did have at least a phone on them. So hopefully they might be able to track from that. I mean, I don't know. If they've gone into the water and the phones, that's where the phone pings stopped, then that'll give an indication, or for them being in and around the area. So, but obviously when you go into someone's property, it might have looked like everything was thrown together very, very quickly. I mean, we just don't know. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so the brother of the sisters said that they'd never mentioned plans to move out of the flat, which is what I said. So Police Scotland continue to appeal for help finding Eliza and Henrietta Huszti, and the family are just desperate, saying they just want them to be found. And you understand that's the case, because even if it's not with them being alive and well, it's closure. So the brother of the two missing sisters from Aberdeen have said that the pair never mentioned a plan to move out of the flat prior to their disappearance. As the search enters its second week, detectives return to the river where they were last seen. Police Scotland continue to appeal for help to find Eliza and Henrietta Huszti. After the pair were reported missing from their home in Aberdeen, their brother, I think it's Joseph, but it could be Joseph Huszti, said in a post on social media that no one should spread any fake news. And I've not really seen any. I've heard people talking about it being a sex worker area and that kind of thing, but and that's only when they've come into the lives. But I've not actually physically seen any articles at the moment, apart from one I'm going to show you in a minute, kind of making any suggestions. Now, and this could be where they've got it from. The pair are from Hungary. They were last seen on Market Street at the Victoria Bridge over the River Dee at around 2:12 a.m. on January 7th. They crossed that bridge, they turned right onto the footpath, and then next to the river headed to the Aberdeen Boat Club. And obviously we know what let me just show you the map again, guys, because the map's always a good thing for you guys to see while I'm yabbing on. So there you go, you can see. So this is the road that they took down there, the bridge crossing, and then they've gone down here across that riverbank there. So my point is that they walked past two entry points to the river here. If they were intending to unalive themselves, they had two entry points before they walked down here. And from what I've looked at, it looks like it kind of slopes in to the river. Whereas at least at these points, that's where the ships dock. It's going to be deep, it's going to be cold, and it would be instant if you were going to do it. But who knows why anybody does anything, why they make choices that they make. So there has been an article posted with Aberdeen Live, and in this article they say that the police have dismissed claims that the missing sisters partied before their disappearance, and this was posted today. Media reports in their native Hungary claim Eliza and Henrietta Huszti had been out partying with a group of males before vanishing, a theory which has been dismissed by police. And they probably can easily dismiss it by the CCTV footage that they've been watching. Police Scotland has dismissed these claims made about the sisters who disappeared in Aberdeen more than a week ago while walking through the city centre. According to media reports, in their native Hungary, Eliza and Henrietta Huszti, both 32, had been partying with a group of males before they suddenly vanished. So how do they know this information when they're in Hungary and the sisters are here? Come on now. However, the investigators have ruled out any such gatherings and have said they had accurately and conclusively traced the pair, two of triplets, from their home to the location where they were last seen. The rebuttal comes after the Hungarian news outlet Blick quoted one woman in Aberdeen who said she knew the missing woman, reports the Scottish Daily Express. Giving her name only as Anna, she said, "We know that the two girls were having fun with a friend of theirs. Do they? Have you got proof of that? Did you show the police your proof?" And a group of men, and then they were heading home. Sounds to me like someone's just come out of the woodworks and made up a load of bollocks to me. But police sources say that it is absolutely untrue and that they both know the women left their own home in the city early on the morning of Tuesday, January 7th, and they will have seen anyone that would have gone in and anyone that would have gone out. And so whoever this woman is has just come out for a bit of clout, I think. The last confirmed sighting of the pair was captured by CCTV walking down that Market Street to the Victoria Bridge at 2:12. Then it is believed they entered a steep and icy footpath, and you could say that it's easy for them to slip, or one of them to have slipped into the river. And obviously, with them being as close as they are, the other one probably tried to jump in to help and then got into difficulty herself because it's so cold. And then they both lost their lives that way. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this is intentional. And it's around 500 meters long and is surrounded by razor wire, which, oh, well, there you go. It's surrounded by razor wire, which runs down the banks of the River Dee. So, I mean, why would they be over the other side of the razor wire? Because if you'd have slipped, the razor wire would have been there. Although I don't see any razor wire in that picture, but hey ho. What's razor wire? I mean, reality is, what is the razor wire going to do other than perhaps stop you slipping and falling in? You just stab yourself with the razor wire fence. According to a family friend, the third triplet, Eddie Huszti, spoke to Eliza and Henrietta on New Year's Eve in a video call, but afterwards had some kind of bad feeling even then, but couldn't explain what it was, although she said everything seemed normal. This is a new bit of information we didn't have the other day. Now she's saying she felt she had a bad feeling, but wasn't sure, couldn't explain what it was. It's been revealed that in the days leading up to their disappearance, the Huszti sisters had told their landlady in Aberdeen they would be leaving their flat. The missing woman's brother, Joseph, speaking from the family home in the Hungarian capital of Budapest, told BBC Scotland of his surprise at this news. "We don't understand this whole thing. That they wrote a message to their landlady that they wanted to immediately end their tenancy. We didn't have any information about that." Mr. Huszti also said that it was a strange thing that the girls didn't tell us anything about that. They never mentioned any such plan. So that is a strange thing, that the girls did not tell us anything about it. They never mentioned any such plan. Even when my mum spoke to them on Saturday, they didn't mention anything about it, that they had planned to move out. The man heading the missing persons inquiry said they've got a number of hypotheses, and was remaining open-minded that what may have happened to them, but obviously their main working hypothesis, as they like to say, would be that they somehow entered the river. Now, the superintendent explained in the days preceding, the sisters had indicated to the landlord that they intended to leave their tenancy, and the landlord carried out inquiries, and that led them to be concerned about the whereabouts of the sisters. But he stressed there is no suspects, there is no criminal inquiry. This is a missing persons inquiry. What they do know is that with the CCTV that they've got at the moment, it provides that they entered that footpath adjacent to the River Dee, and no trace of them leaving that footpath has been seen yet. And inquiries are going to be continued to see if they can extend the timeline further. He went on, "We have carried out extensive inquiries in terms of the state of mind of the sisters and what they may have been in, the lifestyles, movements, and contact with friends and family. Everything we have gleaned so far suggests they were both happy living this life in Aberdeen, working, socialising with friends, and keeping in touch with family in an entirely normal manner. Henrietta, who works in a city centre Costa Coffee outlet, and Henrietta, a hotel cleaner, left their native Hungary about 7 years ago. throughout the inquiry, Police Scotland has been liaising with their colleagues in Budapest. I wonder if they're a bit like, this is our territory, you can't come over. Oh, thank you, Karen. Sorry, I didn't see it. I was reading the article. I was reading the article. Naughty. Wow, there's always one or some, as TikTok would say. Show the receipts. Yeah. Yep, absolutely show the receipts. So I'm just going to show you before we sign off the pathway to this river, just so you can see what it is that we're looking at. So let's get down here. Let's get down to business. Let's get down. So as you can see, I mean, it's difficult to judge, isn't it? But like, if you were going to enter there, you'd have to get down this embankment. So if you fell in, it would probably seem quite steep. But that is the pathway. And then it looks like it kind of edges its way in, and it probably is quite shallowish there before it gets deeper here. But as you can see, it's very, very close to the edge. Very, very close. And it's like, well, they could have walked and just taken the main road. I mean, at that time of the night, why would you want to walk down this embankment? That's dangerous times. Yeah, apparently so. That's what it says. So we have to take that as just what they're doing. It's in Aberdeen, mate. But that you can see, can't you? It's very close to the entry of the river, and if you go a bit further along, no, I don't want. I wanna like. I want you. No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to take me away. Oh, it's not that I can't figure this thing out. But if you like follow this down here, like it's a bit closer and then a bit further away. But it is very close to the river opening. Go down there and then you're out to sea, guys. And then you're out here. Out in the North Sea. No. Hi, Marielle. Yeah, absolutely. Like, they may not. I mean, we don't tell our families everything. Do you know what I mean? And they probably, yeah. I mean, like I said, we don't know why people do what they do. And they may have had intentions to, self-unalive and that kind of thing. And it probably is pointing to that direction. But until obviously there's more information that can or not confirm that, i.e. if they find their bodies or one body, if there was an accident and it involved one of them and the other one went in to help, and you find, say, the one that went in to help, you're not going to know if that was the case if you don't find the other person. But if you find the other person and they've got like a head injury where they've kind of gone in, cracked their head and fell in, and you could then perhaps go down that line. But until we know all the information and they're found and there's an autopsy, is there alcohol in their system? Because what was in that bag, they obviously haven't left their bag there, because they've not reported that the bag was left on the riverbank or any indication that they were even there on that riverbank, other than that they were seen on that riverbank. So, we just have to sit and think, right, well, there could be many reasons why this has happened. And you just have to kind of do what the police do, keep an open mind. But I mean, an open mind with the thought that the highest possibility here is that they have entered It's whether it's intentional or accidental. And you can't rule out completely third party until you've completely ruled it out. Now, obviously, there's nothing we don't know if there's somebody that has been laying in waiting for some people, but then you would see people coming in and out of that area. So there's all the different avenues that they will be considering when they're looking into this. So has anyone gone in before them? Has anyone come out? Has anyone gone in and hasn't appeared for several days and then suddenly reappears out on the other side? That kind of thing. Were they going to meet someone, they didn't turn up, and then accidentally one went in and then the other one tried to help, or did they go intentionally? But then it begs, well, why did they go all that way when there was 2 entry points a lot closer, which would have been quicker? So many questions, no answers. So we just have to sit and wait and see what other bits of information comes out, guys, because we can only go on the information that the police give us, and this is what we are working on or working with at the moment. This is what we know. So it's all very what if, could be, possibly. It's all maybes, because at the moment nobody knows, other than at the moment it's not looking great for these women. So I just wanted to bring you that update. So hopefully you've got something from that update, and I will be back tomorrow. I've got it scheduled for just the update on John, George, and what's been going on over there, which we'll talk about tomorrow, and then I'll be on my TikTok as normal later. So if you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do hit the thumbs up, because that helps me massively over here. If you have not subscribed, do subscribe. We won't make you stay, I promise. If you don't really like it, we won't keep you here. But if you like the content, then do hit the sub button. Sometimes just check that you still subscribe, because YouTube sometimes also unsubscribes people too without their permission. It's happened to me before when I've followed people and I've gone, oh, I didn't unfollow them, and now I'm not following them and I didn't do it. So do just double check. But I will catch you guys later over on our TikTok. Do stay safe wherever you are, and my thoughts go out to the family of the Huszti sisters, and of course we are thinking about the sisters, and we hope that they are found. Have a good day, guys. I'll speak to you very soon. Bye for now.